Unlike the Hebrew Bible, whose ordering varies between Jewish and Christian traditions, the New Testament exhibits a remarkable structural consistency across languages, denominations, and historical traditions. Whether one reads a Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, or academic critical edition, the order of the New Testament books is essentially uniform. This stability reflects the relatively late and well-documented process by which the New Testament canon was formed and standardized. The New Testament consists of 27 books, traditionally organized into 4 literary divisions: Gospels, Acts, Epistles, and Revelation. This structure is both chronological in intent and theological in design, guiding readers from the life of Jesus to the life of the early church and ultimately to eschatological hope. The Gospels. The New Testament opens with the 4 Gospels: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. These books are not biographies in the modern sense, but ancient Greco-Roman biographies shaped by theological aims. Each Gospel presents the life and teachings of Jesus, his death by crucifixion claims concerning his resurrection. Although they share overlapping material, each Gospel reflects a distinct theological emphasis and audience. The placement of the Gospels at the beginning of the New Testament establishes Jesus as the interpretive center of Christian scripture. Everything that follows, church life, doctrine, ethics, and eschatology, is grounded in the story these texts tell. The order of the Gospels themselves reflects early tradition rather than chronology. Matthew first, long associated with Jewish Christian audiences, Mark second, Luke third, and John last, with John's more theological and reflective portrait of Jesus serving as a kind of culmination. Acts of the Apostles, following the Gospels, is the book of Acts, which functions as a narrative bridge between Jesus' ministry and the expansion of the early Christian movement. Acts continues the story begun in Luke, describes the formation of the early church, traces the spread of Christianity from Jerusalem to Rome. Structurally, Acts is essential. Without it, the New Testament would jump abruptly from Jesus' resurrection to letters written to churches without context. Acts provides the historical and theological framework that explains how and why those communities emerged and why the epistles address the issues they do. The epistles, the largest section of the New Testament, is the epistles, or letters. These writings were composed by various early Christian leaders, most prominently Paul, and addressed to specific communities or individuals. The epistles are traditionally ordered: letters attributed to Paul, arranged roughly by length, not chronology. General or Catholic epistles, addressed to broader audiences. These letters deal with theology and doctrine, ethical instruction, community conflict, worship practices, identity, and belonging. Importantly, the epistles are occasional writings. They respond to concrete problems in real communities, making them invaluable historical sources for understanding early Christianity. Their placement after Acts allows readers to interpret them within the narrative context of the church's expansion. Revelation, the New Testament concludes with Revelation, an example of apocalyptic literature. Unlike the letters or Gospels, Revelation communicates through vivid imagery, symbolism, and visions. Revelation addresses communities experiencing persecution, emphasizes divine sovereignty and ultimate justice, concludes the New Testament with hope rather than closure. Its placement at the end of the canon is both literary and theological. Revelation does not merely end the Bible, it frames the entire Christian story within an eschatological horizon, affirming that history ultimately belongs to God. Consistency of New Testament order across traditions. One of the most striking features of the New Testament is the uniformity of its ordering across Christian traditions. While debates over canon boundaries occurred in the early centuries of Christianity, once the 27-book canon was widely recognized in the 4th century, its internal structure stabilized. Unlike the Hebrew Bible, there is no Jewish versus Christian ordering debate. There is no reclassification of genres. There is no rearrangement to produce differing theological narratives. This consistency reflects the New Testament's origin within a narrower historical window, and its canonization within a more centralized ecclesial context, a biblical survey print. Concluding perspective. The structure of the New Testament tells a coherent story. Jesus, Gospels. The church begins. Acts. The church lives and thinks. Epistles. The church hopes. Revelation. Understanding this structure enables students to read the New Testament not as a random assortment of religious writings, but as a deliberately ordered theological narrative, one that moves from incarnation to community, from instruction to expectation.